Is the Polygon Xtrada 6 the best budget hardtail mountain bike? After months of testing, I made this video to answer just that question. The 2021 Xtrada range got a lot of new improvements from 2020 models, and I'll break this video down into those 6 main components: the frame and geometry, suspension, specifications, riding, versatility, and durability. As always, these will be in the video's chapters as well as listed below in the description. The new updates with the frame and geometry mean the Xtrada Series has quite a modern frame design. There are 3 different Xtrada bikes: the 5, the 6, which I'll be reviewing today, and the 7. The 5 comes in at 1000 AED or 750 USD, and it's the worst of the 3 bikes. The 6, which is the mid-range one, comes in at 1200 AED or 900 USD, and the 7, the best Xtrada bike, comes in at 1500 AED or 1100 USD. All 3 bikes come with wheel-specific sizing, meaning small to medium-sized bikes have 27.5-inch wheels, and medium to extra-large-sized bikes have 29-inch wheels. All the bikes have 120mm of travel up front, but the Xtrada 7 has an air fork instead of the coil fork on the 5 and 6. All the bikes have an aluminium frame, with the Xtrada 5 coming in at 14.3 kilos, the Xtrada 6 coming in at 13.9 kilos, and the Xtrada 7 coming in at 13.4 kilos. The geometry on this bike is really modern, especially for a bike in this price range. I'm around 170 centimeters, so the 410mm reach was good, but I prefer a little bit longer reach, like 450mm on my T7. The effective seat angle is 75 degrees, which is quite steep, meaning you get a lot of room to move around when you stand up. The head tube angle is 67 degrees, which I think hits the sweet spot for this bike and the market that it's in, as it's not super slight, meaning you can steer faster, and that means it's better for riding on the road. The chainstay is nice and short, being 425mm on 27.5-inch bikes. The seat tubes are medium length, coming in at 425mm too, which does mean you could have a longer dropper post, like around 150mm, but the bikes don't come pre-installed with one. The standover height is 697mm, so you do get quite a lot of room to move around, and this makes for a really comfortable ride. I think overall Polygon has done really well with the geometry, and it suits the purpose of this bike and the people who are going to be riding it. Onto the suspension, the Suntour XCM forks have 120mm of travel and 32mm stanchions. They are coil forks, so they're not as adjustable as air forks, but there aren't really any bikes in this price range with air forks. The forks are alright, they definitely help absorb some of the bumps like rocks and roots that you ride over on the trail, but they aren't amazing. They lack some of the adjustability that you want, and the compression and rebound isn't too smooth. I feel like the forks are fine for on-the-road riding and commuting, but where you actually want suspension on the trail, they just don't perform well. They only compress on the bigger hits, so when you ride over smaller bumps you still feel all the vibrations coming through the handlebars. It is worth noting that the forks have hydraulic lockout, meaning if you want to eliminate the compression of the suspension when you're riding uphill, that's a really nice feature to have to just make your ride that little bit easier. Overall, these forks are just what you find on almost every other hardtail in the sub $1,300 category. So they aren't particularly bad compared to other bikes, but they also aren't anything special. The Polygon Xtrada 6 really is a value-packed hardtail mountain bike. The forks are not awesome, but the type of person who is going to be riding this bike isn't going to be doing huge drops, jumps, and super gnarly trails. The drivetrain is actually pretty nice for a bike in this price range. It's the Shimano Dior, which shifts smoothly and has a wide variety of gears from 11 teeth to 51 teeth. On this bike, it's a 1x11 system, but you can also get a 2x11 version. As of the time of recording, both bikes are the exact same price, but there have been instances where the 2x11 bike has been $100 less. So if you don't care too much about having a 1x, getting the 2x system could be a great way to save $100. I would personally go with the 1x system though, because the chain won't come off nearly as much, you get more clearance, and it shifts smoother. This bike came with the Maxxis Ardent tyres, which are 2.25 inches thick, but it's supposed to come with the Entity Spiderbait tyres, so I can't really say much on those. The Ardent tyres don't provide much resistance on the road, and they have a faster rolling speed, yet they still provide grip off the road. I think this is the sweet spot for this bike, and if they were to get any thicker, they'd start providing a lot of resistance and be like the tyres on my T7, which are horrible on the road, but they're really good off the road. The wheel set is also really good for this price range. The rims are the Entity XL2 discs, which are double walled and come tubeless take from factory, and that combined with the tubeless ready tyres means you just need sealant and valves to make this bike tubeless. Moving on to the brakes, it has the Shimano BL M201 hydraulic disc brakes. These provide really good braking power, but if you want to upgrade the resin only pads and rotors to metallic ones, for example, this will squeeze even more braking power out of them. Now onto the finishing kit. I find the grips really nice, and the sort of half-waffle design is by far my favourite style, as it provides a softer area for your thumbs and a harder grippier area for the outside of your hands. They also lock on grip so they don't move around at all on the handlebars, and they're really solid. The bike just came with some unbranded plastic flat pedals, which would be fine for the majority of the people riding this bike, but we upgraded it to some metallic flat pedals with pins, which I find are a lot grippier and better in wet weather. The saddle is the Entity Void, and even as one of the more budget components on this bike, for me it still felt great even after a long day of riding. I found the stem and bars to be alright, as I prefer shorter stem and longer bars. My only complaint is the bars are kind of really straight, and I prefer them to be swept back a little bit, but this is really all up to personal preference. After the Xtrada 6 has been ridden for a few months, I can say that it's a really comfortable bike to ride with only a few downsides. It feels really fast and responsive thanks to the slack geometry and not having really beefy tyres. The bike feels a lot lighter than the 13.9 kilograms that it is. Because of the steep seat angle, you can get up over the cranks, which really helps in the climbs, and thanks to the lockout, you can pedal without losing your energy through the suspension. The stack feels like a good height, and it lets you put a little bit more weight on the front end while going uphill. The drivetrain is smooth and quiet when you're riding, and overall the bike is just really nice and quiet to ride. One downside is that the 170mm cranks, because they're so long, like on my T7, they're really easy to pedal strike. One thing I absolutely love about this bike is how versatile it is. It is a great bike for commuting and riding on the road, as it doesn't provide much resistance, but it also performs well off-road, doing trails with drops and jumps on them. It's also fine for riding on the pump track and practicing your skills in a more controlled environment, and you could even take it to the skate park if you wanted to practice some things there, but it's only really going to be good for dropping in, and just because it's a bigger bike, it won't be the best for doing tricks on. I think that this is a really important aspect of the bike, and it means it's a great fit for someone who can only have one bike but does multiple different riding styles. During the few months of having this bike, most of it has held up well, but there have been a few shortcomings when it comes to the durability. The frame and the paint have been fine, and there is no premature scratches. The forks and drivetrain still work like new and haven't needed any maintenance other than the occasional grease on the chain and cassette. The main problem with the durability on this bike is the weaker hubs. After only a few weeks of riding, the rear hub bent, which also meant the cassette wobbled. The bike is still rideable, but it's just frustrating to see that this happened on such a new bike. Overall, I think this bike is quite tough, and if you're not going to be sending it too hard, it'll be fine. I think this bike has held up well to its expectations as a beginner/mid-range hardtail mountain bike. I'd recommend it to people who are just past the beginning phase of mountain biking and want a good quality bike without breaking the bank, but who also ride on the road as well as off-road on some easy to medium trails. I think that it's a really good bike to progress on, and it definitely has a lot of potential. It has the value, quality and fun factor that people are going to be looking for in the Xtrada 6. If you like the look of the Polygon Siskiu T7, which I featured in this review, you can check out that review right here. I'll have a review of the Xtrada 5 coming in the next few months, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.